taking part in this project, I really hope to gain a bit more understanding, a bit more knowledge about values, and how personal values that individuals might have integrate together to create organisational values, and then how an organisation makes sure that all of its staff live those values every day. I think the advantage to the housing sector in working in a way that's focused on values is that we'll see those shared values that we have across the whole sector, which makes us a much more powerful force together than we ever would be separately.
Again, I think what I hope to gain from being taking part in this pilot is to learn from others, sort of express my opinions and see what other people think of that, if I'm thinking along the right lines.
What I hope to get out of the project is learning, personal growth and understanding, but also being able to learn lessons from others and apply them in the organisation, as well as hopefully share good practice and the things that we found out about working on values. I would hope that we can start to influence the housing sector in terms of the importance that values can actually play in an organisation, that they're not just a set of words that you put on an annual report or something that you push out to your customers, but in truly finding ways to truly live those in your organisation.
I think to create a very clear culture about what we're about, but more importantly than that, that it be obvious to people out there without us sort of banging on about what those values are. It will be just self-evident. It'll be self-evident to the people who come and work for us, and it'll become kind of second nature.
I think what the values program's enabled me to do is reflect on why I did it. I tend as a person to just do things often without thinking about why. And what this has got me doing is thinking, actually, why did I do that? What was my motive in that? It makes you more aware of the decisions you take. It makes you more aware of your own feelings. It makes you more aware of how you interact with others. Why some people are perhaps easier to deal with than others, which might be because I share their values. And so it just makes you think a little bit more about what you do and why you do it. The programme, which we're currently sort of 2/3 of the way through, I've been really valuable. I've learnt things from the presenters. The really useful handouts. But the other thing is that I've learnt things from people that are in the room.
I do try to be a reflective practitioner, but sometimes it's not always easy. But this makes you focus on reflecting on what your values are and what you're doing to make a difference.
I think personally, from taking part in the Wake Up to Values project, I've learnt more about myself. I've always had quite strong values, but never really realised that that's what they were. Working on values, I've realised the extent particularly to which they affect my decision making, and I'd always seen that perhaps in a work capacity, but one of the biggest impacts is the change in my personal relationships, so no huge impact. What I've noticed since doing this is that there's a much closer relationship between me at work and me at home, and I'm no longer the slightly different characters than I was previously. I think there's a few areas where the whole of the housing sector could learn from a project like this, and I think one is very fundamental. It's about how we're perceived externally. The challenge for the sector, I think, is getting that values-driven approach embedded across the whole sector, and it's a very diverse sector, so that's not easy. But also making that the message that we communicate externally. So we tend to communicate about houses or homes instead of about people, where actually our values are nearly all about people.
And for me, the success is for everybody around that table going back to their organisation, talking about it to their colleagues, and getting colleagues thinking about values as well.
Well, I think most people in the housing sector would say that they hold their values dear, that they're not just a piece of paper or something they put in the annual report, that they believe them. And I think, research demonstrates that those organisations with really strong, coherent cultures perform better in all respects. But I still think that most of us, if we look at our organisations, there's still some disconnection between what we say we are and what we aspire to be and what that looks like on a day-to-day basis. So this type of project helps you reflect on what that disconnection looks like and how you can bring those two things closer together and actually be living those values day to day in the decisions that you make and the choices that you make and the services that you deliver. A lot of the things that we measure, some of the KPIs and things that we've measured historically, don't actually look at us delivering our values. So we'll all say that we're customer focused, but do all of our KPIs and measures, are they all focused on the customer and the customer purpose, or are they focused on something else?
Well, it'd be great if the whole housing sector sort of took on board this, the outcomes, the learning from this pilot, and for me, it would be great if the whole housing sector can embrace the learning as well, and sort of embed it into everyday working life.
It should be a discussion that's kept alive, that we should feel free, and there should be perhaps a forum within the sector to discuss values, to challenge, and I think that debate often gets moved into the political or the financial realms too much, and actually going back to the pure the value systems, I think would give us a lot of strength.
I think it's incredibly exciting. There's a lot of opportunities for organisations and the sector as a whole to rediscover their roots. And when you look at the various values that are being talked about, whether it's from trust, whether it's integrity, passion, all those things have got an incredible resonance in terms of the sector in 2015.
So I've been really impressed by what I've seen in the Wake Up to Values pilot project so far. I think housing associations across the sector have really strong values, and it's by putting them front and centre that they will actually operate better, but also more people will understand housing associations and the fantastic work they do locally. I think this initiative will be really helpful to the sector because the values are very strong within housing associations, but other organisations, for example private sector organisations, are a lot more comfortable shouting about their values and talking about them publicly and on their website and so on. And I think if the housing association sector actually taps into those values, it will make it a much better recognised sector and also a more effective one as well. So if you take an organisation like Starbucks, for example, they're very open about the fact that their values are about the community and about humanity and so on. And actually, they're a private sector organisation that serves coffee. With housing associations, you've got organisations that are doing fantastic community work on the ground. Actually, they should be just as vocal, if not more vocal, about their values, and that will help to really hit home the message of what those organisations are doing.